Deputy Pauline Tully.
I just say at the first meeting of the Autism Committee that I welcome its establishment and look forward to working constructively with all my colleagues here to see positive change for autistic people. And I want to particularly welcome the three members from the NCSE here this morning. I've met you all before, Mary, Paula, and particularly the CEO, John. We worked together a long time ago and know each other going back when we held different roles in life. And either of us dreamed that we'd meet here, I think. I suppose the first question I have to ask is a fairly obvious one. A lot of talk in the last few weeks has been about the lack of school places coming this September for children with additional needs, and in particular autistic children. And I'm just wondering what kind of data you hold in the NCSE on exactly what school places are needed. And I mean, have you a mapping system to identify where school places are needed, particularly, I think, going from primary into secondary school as well, because a lot of people do not understand why, if a child is already in a special class or an autism class or in a special school, why it's not recognised that they may possibly need the same at the second level, and that's not provided. And there's huge deficits in particular areas in the country, particularly in Dublin, Cork, but in other areas as well. So I'm just wondering what kind of data you possess, and how far in advance do you plan for these? And also to ask, how far in advance do you advise the Minister of exactly what's needed? Because really, I think you said yourself, there's 106 children without school places for September. It's too late now almost. You know, it's almost a rush job at this stage. That should be planned maybe 2 years in advance. I'm just wondering, you know, what sort of data and planning go into ensuring that there's children have places, because this comes up every year at this time.
Thanks, Deputy, and it's a delight to meet you in your current position and engaging at this level with you, and commend you in the various inputs you give to teaching and learning in your schools in County Cavan. Firstly, just to assure you and committee members, there's quite a comprehensive database that the NCSE has. It's a 5-year forecasting model as such, which projects ahead in terms of what placements are actually needed. At any given time, we have a county-by-county analysis in terms of what placements are required, and that's built on weekly meetings with the department in terms of projecting future placement requirements. Now, enrolment is an ongoing process, and particularly in and out of a special class placement with 6 students, it keeps changing. But based on our weekly meetings with the department, the geographic information system that they share with us, we have managed the demand down to, like, on a county-by-county basis. We're confident we have the capacity to address emerging needs that arise between now and September. We have narrowed it down to the Dublin region in terms of 50 special school placements and 56 special class placements as we currently speak. So we're quite confident in the data that we managed, notwithstanding the fluidity of the enrolment processes, and that enables us to accommodate and deliver on the need that is projected. Now, it's not perfect for 1 minute in the sense there are anomalies there, in the sense that our first focus is very much on delivering on need, that each and every student with special education needs is provided with a special class placement in this country. We're achieved that by and large to the identified hotspots in Dublin that have been well publicised in recent times. But we're also focusing on moving in time that students will be travelling to their local school and their local catchment area as such. But as this moment in time, we're confident in the data and the management of that around places as such.
Okay. You see, though, how people, especially parents of children, you know, are frustrated. Most of us enrolled our child for a secondary place back in November for the following September, and then, you know, this is June now, the end of June, coming into July, and they still don't have a place. So you can see how worrying it is for them.
I completely empathise. Like, I walked the byways. I was a principal dealing with parents. So in this role, I completely empathise where parents are actually coming from. And in the last 3 months, I've met many of those parents. And unfortunately, it's another context and another different conversation I would like to be having with those parents, that we would be talking about the teaching and learning experience that they're having in the schools. Unfortunately, the more depressing one is trying to secure the special class placement. And not only am I meeting them, I'm fortunate to be joined by a committed staff within the NCSE. Our seniors are out and about, and perhaps just correcting one inference, that our seniors can't engage with the enrolment process. The enrolment process is the individual preserve of schools themselves. We can only advise in terms of where placements are oncoming and support parents then in terms of trying to progress the enrolment requests that they have within individual schools. But we get the confusion, the upset, and each letter that comes back in terms of a rejection to families, we know the hurt and trauma that inflicts on parents.
Okay, so therefore the Minister is kept advised at all stages. So there should not be really a need for emergency legislation. I mean, you know, action should have been taken before this. If you say that you meet regularly with the department to advise them, so really we should never have to come to a situation where we're looking for emergency placements or passing emergency legislation.
I suppose I'm very pragmatic in the sense I'm always trying to find solutions to it. There is an urgent crisis. They are, like the vast majority of schools, are very proactive and engaging with the NCSE. And sometimes some schools are less forthright in doing so. I do believe that there is a need for special emergency legislation to address the current crisis we're currently facing at the moment. And there's also a very significant pathway to be followed over the next couple of years in terms of getting uniform of special class placements right throughout the country as such. And processes need to be streamlined, quickened and sharpened with a view to approaching that. And I believe the legislation is the avenue of providing that degree of sharpness that's required.
Okay. Just maybe you comment on something that was posted on social media earlier, and whether it's true or not, or if you have the figures to hand. It's in 2003 that there were 72 CNOs and 15 other staff employed with the NCSE. Yeah. And in 2019, there are 65.6 CNOs and 150 under staffs. So that there's less CNOs now than there were almost 20 years ago, even though we know that the number of children with additional needs has increased, or the diagnosis of a number of children with special needs. Are those figures correct?
Those figures are correct, and when I was appointed Chief Executive, is the first thing I looked at in the sense of the expectation for service delivery, and I ruthlessly followed up all the complaints, all the issues in terms of service delivery, and I'm competent to report that by and large we were delivering, but our services were stretched as well in terms of what was expected for us to deliver. Now, I have earmarked this to the department, who are very much working with me in terms of identifying funding arrangements for additional staff with a view to providing the degree of service. But it is quite correct what you're saying in the sense staffing levels more or less 20 years ago are exactly the same as they are now in terms of the degree of service that's required. So
the NCC basically is under-resourced to deal with the level of needs that's out there?
We're working, yeah, we're very much working with the department to get additional funding for additional staffing that's required to deliver the range of expectation for service delivery, and rightly so for delivery that's expected.
I suppose just to mention as well, I mean, you're looking for additional classrooms or additional space in schools, and many parents will make the point accommodation is not the only issue, it's actually resourcing of that accommodation. And I myself, and I brought this up with you, and I'm not going to say where the school is or what the school is called, but you know, you see a special school opened or you see an additional class opened. If you don't have the properly trained staff and the proper resources, that's not going to work. And we've ended up seeing a lot of children who were in special classes or in special schools being suspended or expelled or withdrawn by their parents because it wasn't an appropriate placement. Do you have any figures on how many students are in inappropriate placement or being homeschooled because there is no appropriate placement for them?
I wouldn't have the exact figures that you're looking for. There's further work required on that. And I think the Chief Inspector's report in terms of the placement of students in classes give us an indication that we need closer observation of that in terms of special class placements, and that's for the work that the NCC has to develop and take on board. What is very much required is an annual review of each and every special class placement in a school, and indeed as there is for any assessment of a student in a school, and how is it working out, and that's a consultation that has to take place with a variety of school teachers, school management, the parents, and indeed in many situations the student themselves. Just want to come back to you in terms, there is a collective responsibility in terms of taking on special classes in a school. It's a formidable challenge for any school to take that on. It's a change in culture. It's a change in terms of leadership and the dynamic approach that's required at all sections of staff to fully embrace each and every learner that comes into a school community, that they're given the same sense of opportunity and progression as any other learner that comes in. That's a journey that has to be travelled by a school, and it takes a significant effort to do that. And the NCSE is more than eager and enthusiastic to assist schools in that significant journey that they have to travel. And it is ultimately a journey that the vast majority of schools will have to travel in time. There's quite a number of schools travelling it, but more schools have to travel that journey in terms of to make that cultural change, to provide that strong leadership, to provide that openness and engagement with parents in terms of delivering the quality of education that students with special education deserve.
Okay, thank you.